Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Legacy of Light podcast. My name is Juji, and I'm here with Jessica, and we are here to explore a lot of topics based in the Akashic Records and human design. Hi, Jess.
Hi. Our intention is to explore what it means to be of service to ourselves, to others, and to all that is. Today, we are discussing how we connect with our womb space.
Mm. Some light topics to start.
It's funny because we want to keep it light and we want our presence to be light, but we always choose heavy hitting topics.
Well, maybe as long as we don't take ourselves too seriously, it's fine.
Yeah. I feel like I'd like to start by exploring what the collective womb space is and how it feels right now, because our womb is an organ and it's also an energy center. And there's a way in which all of our wombs are connected, just like all of our hearts are connected, and all of our minds have a connection between them. Our thoughts aren't private in our head, our emotions aren't private in our heart, and the vibration and the wisdom of the womb isn't private either. It's something we can all connect to and all access. So I feel like if everyone who's listening right now wants to tune in to their womb, if they have one biologically, or their energetic womb, and feel if they can um, connect it to the earth, and maybe just sense what's there. Is it close to the earth? Is it connected to the earth? And then also, can you feel how your womb is connected to the womb of your mother, or the womb of your grandmother, or the womb of all women?
Hmm.
How does that feel for you, Gigi?
Well, it's only recently that I feel connected in a way that isn't tied to childbirth itself,
Mm.
because for me, that's always what it was for. I put that in quotes. So to me, it was a superfluous organ because I never intend to have children. Although I guess I shouldn't say never, because never say never. Although the time is winding down when that is even possible for me, but it's just not something that I've given my sacred yes to in this life, which is okay. But what really feels true is that even though motherhood itself isn't something I feel called to, creating things has always been at the forefront of my being, my everything. Who am I if I'm not creating? I don't even know. So to me, womb energy is about giving birth to anything that is of value in this world, whether that's a child or a project or a piece of art, anything that people can connect to in a way that is tangible.
Yeah. I feel like our energetic wombs are really connected to like the land feature of caves.
Hmm.
If you've ever been in a cave where it's like totally dark and there's this sense of potential, of possibility, of for me, I experienced like dark and unknown as gentle and as warm, like a womb. I know a lot of people associate being like in the pitch black as scary,
Mm-hmm.
but what's true for me is that it's a place of nurturing, it's a place of clarity, it's a place of emptying out of all that isn't really true. And from that darkness, from that womb, we birth into light all that is. So in my spiritual practice, I often travel to the source of my consciousness. No big deal. You can just go there. Your spirit knows. But sometimes I go to the source of my consciousness and then I go to my source, what I call my source. And I go back even further and then even further and go back and back and back. And I always get to this like womb of creation, like that which out of all things are formed.
Mm,
It's a very still, it's a very sacred, it's a very warm space.
mm. Well, and you said something earlier about how, it's not just women who can tap into womb energy. In fact, to encourage men to tap into that would be such a beautiful way of being in the world, you
Mhm.
know, so that boys, perhaps from a young age, can understand how sacred it is and how sacred creation is and how sacred life is, and
Mm.
to not, it's not maybe taking it for granted, but perhaps honoring it more.
Yeah, and everyone has a relationship to womb energy for the obvious biological reasons. And then also like the womb of their existence.
Mm,
And I feel like I want it to be safe for men to connect to that energy without being ridiculed or made fun of or seen as less than.
mm,
You know, that it's okay, like it's okay for um, men who are perceived as like a macho man in society to enjoy things like painting their nails or wearing dresses or being silly or crying on the shoulders of their partners, you know.
mm.
It feels like that's still so radical, and yet in my like third eye and my second seeing, it's so mundane. It's like of course men should be able to connect to their energetic womb, to the womb space in general, and feel safe and held in doing that.
I remember hearing, I don't, I don't know what the context was exactly, but I remember a man being interviewed uh, probably in the last 2 years. And he said, the most dangerous two words in the English language are man up.
Oh.
And I like felt that.
Hmm. Hmm. Man up is woman down too, right?
Well, I think that's a really good point in the sense that what the patriarchy perpetuates is that somebody else has to be wrong in order for you to be right. Where like womb energy knows inherently that all things are true as long as it's true for you. And so we don't really allow room for other people to have their truth, other people to have their way, other people to be in their own container, in their own reality. And that doesn't mean it has to be yours,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I I no longer consent to participating in that.
Yeah, it's so powerful to let people have their own reality, which is actually their right, and to not try to change or force it.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah, it's been a really powerful lesson in my own life to just observe that people can have their own reality, and I'm always safe and I'm always supported and I'm always taken care of. My responsibility is for myself and for seeing reality clearly and for being in integrity with the people who choose to orbit with me, travel through life with me.
mhm.
But it's not to go into somebody else's mental constructs and go rooting around and telling them what's right or wrong about it.
What does that feel like when you're speaking with a client and, you know, they're there seeking answers for their soul level truth? Then you say something about what their guides have to say. Maybe it's an ancestor that you're tapping into, and they don't want to accept the truth or what is true at their soul level. What happens then?
9 times out of 10, when we go into somebody's beliefs and explore kind of what belief has been running in the background, like I'm not good enough, or the only way for me to have safety and security is blank. And I just put some voice to that that's been kind of running around back there, and then kind of explore what might be really true. Usually, within a few days, it feels really good and it feels a lot lighter. And I hear back from people like, whew, thank you. Sometimes, as you know, it is I've given a sacred yes to leaving nothing unsaid in my readings. And sometimes those truths can be kind of hard to hear, but they're always very simple. Sometimes the truth is like the situation isn't working out around you.
Mm.
Usually that's the hardest truth to hear. Like, hey, like this living situation doesn't feel good. And they know that. And it's obvious. Like anyone could see. You don't need to be intuitive, but it's so hard to hear. It's so hard to hear. And so, what does that feel like? It feels like grief. It feels like ungroundedness. It feels like uncertainty, like there's nothing to hold on to. And that honestly is very raw. It's very scary. And it is the place of the most potential in the spiritual journey. When you feel like you can't hold anything up, like nothing you've ever believed before is true, like your life is falling down around you, that is the most sacred moment of your entire life. It is a place where the light can finally enter places that it hasn't been to in a long time. And your body and your life becomes one of the holiest places on earth. It's so powerful. Yeah. And it's my sacred responsibility and to put the right amount of pressure, which is in my human design chart, um, to elicit that experience in its own time and its own unfolding. Because there's me and then there's a client, and we're different. And
Mhm.
they have their own role in their life.
That's really funny that you say, the resistance is there in terms of the bad news, because I've heard clients in human design readings say, okay, now give me the bad news. And we're like, there's no such thing.
Made up thing.
Like, no, you're here to get permission to be your fully expressed, sparkly, amazing self. And this is here to unlock your greatest potential as a human being. But inherently, people feel like there has to be something wrong with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of going back to that womb energy, darkness holds all things like equally gently. Equal amount of space is given to neuroses and grief and jealousy and sadness as to ecstasy, bliss, joy, and success. Right? And that womb energy. Yeah, it's just we decided a long time ago like what's good and what's bad. And
Mm.
I notice a lot of people don't like to experience themselves as anxious or as depressed, and there's so much blame, like why do I still feel this way? And this comes up for me too, like there's a situation in my life right now that I still have a little bit of frustration around. And I noticed a thought coming in like, Jess, like it's been like over a year, like just let it go, sis, but it's my teacher and I get to appreciate it as much as I appreciate the peace that I do experience as well.
I've had moments of meditation when I literally am just like tears are coming down my face, and I'm like, I can just feel how much I'm resisting this situation. Like, I need clarity on why I'm resisting this so much. And sometimes it's about a mindset shift that can, it's almost like releasing of pressure in that situation. But sometimes it really is changing the situation that takes place, you know. Um, it's not necessarily just about like, oh, if I could only think about that differently, then I would be okay. Like, sometimes you really do need to move. Sometimes you really do need to let go of a partner, and there's nothing that you can do because you've completed your karmic what exchange with that person. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, Juji, thank you so much for saying that. Because sometimes people will be like, I just need to open my heart more. I just need to do this. And it's like, maybe you need to stand up for yourself more.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to create something different that feels good to you. Like, it's okay to have true needs in this lifetime. Like, it's okay for having, eventually having a companion in your life to feel like a true need for you to thrive. I just want to give permission to everyone to have like true soul level needs that can exist on the material plane, such as like money and wealth and home and partner. Yeah.
That's actually interesting that you say that, because for the very first time, what came up for me the other day was I've been single for a while now, and what what that initially looked like was a bit of resistance. And then, you know, even like, especially with the pandemic, I was really able to like ease into it. And now I'm like, am I too comfortable being on my own? Like, am I denying my soul level truth that I love being in relation, and that I would like at one point to experience partnership in a way that is fulfilling and grounded and has a foundation with proper boundaries and all the things that I've never experienced before? Because let's be real, I've never experienced those things before. And it's like a fun experiment to see if that's something that, how does that even work? Like, how does that
Yeah.
happen?
Can you hold both, that like you're super okay right now and then you'll know when it's time to start opening up? Does
Hmm.
that feel true for you?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, is
It's
it
funny
okay?
what sorry, it's funny what our minds come up with as something to worry about. Like, why is that something that I really worried about myself? Like, oh my God, am I too happy being single? Is that a problem? Do I have a problem? Like, why?
Our minds are so like lovely and powerful. I love that in human design, it's said that our minds aren't used for ourselves or our own lives, but it's meant to like help externalize to others. So right now, so my mind feels personally like it's bigger than my body, and it's kind of like a thing that goes all around my entire body that I exist in, and then I can step back from and observe. I don't know how other people's minds feel, because in human design I have a defined mind in my own way. My own unique logical way of processing mental energy. But yeah, minds are really powerful and also like very absurd if they're out of balance,
Mhm.
if they go run away and get disconnected from the rest of the body or get disconnected from the breath.
I'm reading this book called The Untethered Soul,
Oh,
which I highly recommend. It's very funny in the sense that it gives you a lot of the same stuff that other spiritual books talk about, especially the mind. And there's one chapter that literally poses the mind as if it were your roommate. And if you say out loud everything that your mind thinks over the course of the day, how quickly you would want to get rid of that roommate because they're
Oh,
nuts.
yeah, you'd be like, okay, this isn't working. This is crazy.
And you live with it all the time and you never even question it.
Right? Like, take a step back, maybe explore your womb energy. You know, to me, womb energy is wisdom itself.
And I also would venture to say womb energy is unconditional love, because what is a mother's role in your life than to unconditionally love you, whether or not you think you're worthy of that love.
Mhm. Yeah. It's what Mother Earth does for us, you know.
Mhm.
She feeds us, and to a point, I mean, we're kind of coming up to the end of like our bandwidth to do whatever we want. Maybe we passed that a little bit ago. Because a good mom will also have limits, and it's like, okay, like, and all done, you know, enough now.
Mhm.
But yeah, she does. Like, Mother Earth, you know, lets everybody touch her and eat her food, and
Mhm.
the sun shines on all of us equally. It's been said many times by many more articulate people, but we all get to stand on the earth and be under the sky. And that's part of the sacredness of being, the sacredness of creation, the sacredness of life. We're all equally worthy of those experiences.
Yeah, and taking that for granted is sort of forgetting about womb energy.
Hmm. Hmm. Feeling like we have to do something to earn the experience of being alive in a good way.
Yeah. Well, and that sort of goes hand in hand with this idea that life is inherently hard.
Oh, can we erase that?
I mean,
Goodbye, thought. Yeah.
like that human suffering is the thing.
Well, something radical to add on to that is like, did you know you don't need any money at all to actually like technically to have a good life on earth? Like, money isn't what gives you food, it's not what gives you health. That's like a construct that we've created. But if you have no money, you can still eat food and go swimming and have sun and have shelter.
I mean, I don't know how many like incredibly wealthy people you've met in this life, but I've met a few and none of them seem any happier than me.
Yeah. I feel like I also want to hold space for the fact that the way that we've constructed things necessitates a certain amount of wealth to have access to healthcare
Mhm.
and those kinds of things. Yeah, that it's all true at the same time. As you mentioned, that the womb can hold all of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm actually very connected to the material plane and what what it's all about. In fact, I love anybody's input about what money is to them because it
Ooh, we should
feels
do that.
well,
Yeah.
it's just like a collection to me, a collection of what money means to different people that I'm always really interested in. And this idea that people can have like blocks with money is sort of something that I like to challenge. You can have beliefs about money that may not be healthy or serving you,
Yeah.
and sort of deconstructing that in shadow work maybe, or understanding more like what your role with money is in terms of your design can be helpful, because there's so much about the material plane in human design. it's not to put aside the material plane and say, I'm not participating in this. It's very difficult to do that fully.
Yeah. That would be like disconnecting.
That's way off the grid.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know if you really can totally disconnect. Like, even if you are disconnected physically off the grid, your mind is still connected to the collective mind. Your womb is still connected to the collective womb. Your heart is connected to the collective heart, and we still affect each other.
Right. And, if money is energy, then this disparity in energy distribution, i.e., certain people having billions of dollars and others having very, very little and not really getting what they're needing, is just another example of how this system and the womb energy is like, that the womb energy isn't being accessed, perhaps, because like you said, it leaves room for all.
Yeah, yeah. You would never say this person is not deserving of the healthcare that they need.
Mhm.
That's for sure. And then what would that mean for our society if we were listening to that wisdom? I wonder if could we take 3 group breaths into our womb space?
Mhm.
So breathing in through the nose, dropping your mind down into your heart, down into your womb, holding it there, and letting it go. Taking the next breath in directly into your energetic or physical womb. Noticing what's there, what's alive, what's present for you today, even if it's just spaciousness or nothingness, that's still something. And letting it go. And the third one, taking a breath into the collective womb space. Your womb knows where that is. Don't think about it too much. Feeling into what's present and alive there today. Alchemizing anything you feel called to alchemize. And letting it go. And there you have it, folks. The womb.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jess. I'm really excited to be doing this with you.
I just love talking to you so much, and may this podcast just be of benefit and be of the greatest and highest good for all.
Indeed. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.